All right, so let's get into spatial mapping and some of the projects that are starting to make their way into the future of what we're going to see, I think, in next generation technology. It's going to be a good one. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into TechPath. Many of you guys know we look at a lot of these projects that will affect the next generation of tech. And a lot of times it does flow into two major categories. One, of course, is blockchain. The other is AI. We'll break it all down for you today. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is Wilderworld. Make sure and check their website out. Just go over to wilderworld.com. You can kind of learn a little bit more around Wilderworld, which is a massive multiplayer metaverse that leverages latest advancements in photorealism, artificial intelligence, and of course, blockchain tech. Also, check out their Twitter page, because this is pretty cool. Wilderworld is now back trending on the Epic Games Store. Everybody, help them stay up there at the top. Pretty cool stuff. I like to see these Web3 projects really do well in some of the kind of Web 2 dominated spaces that we've seen so far, because that really is going to see the attribution toward mass adoption. That's the key here. Speaking of that, you have to consider what's happening at AWE. This is one of the conferences that we talked about. When you look at Augmented World, the Augmented World Expo, and what they were covering and talking about, we really get to see a chance and into a glimpse of where Web3 could really play a big role. I want to go to a clip real quick that kind of breaks this down, because it goes into a lot more detail around Niantic, which is what this is going to be talking about today, and why they're important. So take a look.
We were acquired by Google in 2004, and John and I led the Google Maps and Geo teams as we built Maps, Earth, Street View, and many other geo-based products. In 2016, we launched Pokémon Go. We're very proud of Peridot. I think Peridot is the preeminent visual AR game around. The entire game takes place in the real world on your phone.
You look at the size and annual revenue of Pokémon Go generated worldwide from 2016 to 23, pretty significant. I mean, here we are at the height of it, almost $1 billion, 908 million, all the way down to 566. Point being is this is continuing to grow. Spatial mapping is going to be huge. They mentioned Peridot, and of course that we'll show a little bit more about. I want to go also into some of the things that I think are the growth opportunities here. This comes in from GW Prime. And what they were talking about is the growth capacity for global geospatial market size. It's expected to grow at a much faster rate, about 16% growth over the year. And this is going to be post-2025, reaching a total of 1.4 trillion by 2030. And that's based on current recommendations or current estimates. Shows you in general where some of this growth is going to come. Blockchain, artificial intelligence, obviously visualization, AR, VR, XR, all of that I think is going to start leading into what we'll see in terms of geospatial computing. I want to kind of lead up to this around what Pokemon Go was doing in terms of harvesting this data and how they were doing it. Watch this.
How do we build the map? Well, our Pokemon Go players and Ingress players have been providing us information about new opportunities to place Pokestops and other interesting locations on our map. And they've also been using their phones to scan and collect visual imagery that help us understand the physical world around them. This enables us to build Niantic's Visual Positioning System, or VPS. Our VPS allows you and us to place content in the real world very precisely. We were very excited, this year to add Gaussian Splats to the 3D reconstruction technology. And I don't think we've seen anything this transformational since Silicon Graphics introduced real-time texture mapping in 1991. We've already put out 250,000 locations around the world, combining the power of Pokemon Go players and Ingress players with these Scaniverse users to collect and process more data. And we're on track to do 1 million locations by the end of this year.
All right, now what does that sound like to you guys? This basically is using a massive user base to be able to harvest all this information, harvest all this data, and they're not really rewarding them for anything. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we have a huge opportunity in Web3, because this has been pretty much the DNA of Web3, and that is rewarding its users, rewarding its players for collecting data like this. Good example of this right now, if you think about Gaussian Splats that they were referencing, OVR The Reality, is announcing an introduction of Gaussian splatting for map visualizations. This replaces their NERF renders. So this is huge, because the opportunity for growth going forward in some of these projects is absolutely going to be mind-boggling when you think about the devices that are coming into the market itself. And I'll talk more about that real quick, but I want to go to the OVR CEO. He talks a little bit more around how to do this. Take a look.
The problem with GPS is that it's not very precise. So outdoor with blue skies and no tall buildings, the precision is 4 to 6 meters. So the solution to that, there is a solution to that is called visual positioning system. So we use computer vision to relocate you in space. Just to give you some more examples of what you can do with this technology, this is a work that we did for Pinko, for the opening of one of their new shop where they were presenting a bag made with skins of the apple. And we were able to actually locate these assets very precisely to this building only thanks to this relocalization technology made with visual positioning system. But the good thing that we just introduced last month is that before you had to download an app in order to do that. Right now, you can access all of this content just pointing to a QR code, and we'll basically activate what is called a click app. That is a preview of our app with all the features of the app, but without having to download it.
You also have to look at the strategies that these Web 2 companies have tried to deploy in Web 3. Here's Pokemon Go's studio Niantic now closing down their Trading Post NFT project. And remember, this was a project that they started with this Miami company called SpotX. This was a startup. Was purchased by Niantic in May 2022, so brand new and now already closing. So this is the point I'm getting at, is that a lot of the Web 2, it's not saying that all, but a lot of the Web 2 strategies just don't necessarily work in a Web 3 environment. That's why I think we're going to see a whole new era of companies, projects, startups, etc., that are going to start to break the mold of what has been transitory technology over the last 2 decades, kind of moving forward. So a lot of opportunities here. Niantic are, of course, recognizing the opportunity, so they're looking at NFTs for Pokemon Go as a successor to Peridot. And we can kind of see a statement right here. NFTs are interesting idea and something that we're obviously looking at. They see it, the writing's on the wall, it's coming, and I think it's coming faster than a lot of these Web 2 companies are really prepared for. I want to go to another clip real quick, because this will get into a little bit more detail on where we're seeing Niantic's future plans. Take a look.
With the release of Niantic Studio.
That's an incredible list, but how does it work with maps?
I'm glad you asked. I wanted to show you a video of what's coming soon, with a demo of how Scaniverse and Studio will soon work together to build experiences for real-time locations using VPS and immersive fly-through experiences using Gaussian Splats.
This goes beyond mobile devices, includes mixed reality headsets. These are true AR glasses will need a 3D map of the world. This is backbone infrastructure that will enable any outdoor wearable to display spatial content in a way that understands and meaningfully engages with the world around you. But now it's real. These two users are experiencing the same location, but from 2 completely different paths. One is on device with their phone doing augmented reality. The other has taken their headset, loaded the splat, and most importantly, simultaneously sees exactly where the other person is. So we created a shared AR, VR experience. If you could take an outdoor game and bring all of those indoor users in to share it with you, you greatly expand the audience.
So they clearly see the direction and kind of the future growth opportunities. Then you look at the devices, because the devices, I think, are the real threshold that have to be crossed. This is a good start right here. Canon, of course, is developing a new camera that's going to have a dual lens for spatial video. But there's other projects out there that are also going into this, more cameras coming into the market. Don't forget devices. The mobile devices will continue to see rollout in terms of the capacity for spatial camera use. So more than half of the Fortune 100 companies now are using Vision Pro headsets. Now, what does this tell you? Think about this for a second, because you've got the potential here from productivity standpoint to use case, branding, IP, gaming. You name the sector, name the industry, and you're going to start to see this start to make its way in a short period of time. I think that's the key here. OVR CEO has a pretty big statement right here about their strategy against Niantic. Take a look.
The Web 2 competitors that we have, for example, is Niantic. Niantic is a company that is beyond Pokemon Go. So they have a similar system that is called Lightship, and they have 100,000 maps. So basically, in 8 months, we generated the 30% of the maps they have. But the reason why we was able to do that is because we are able to incentivize people to do this. They don't have the Web3 power to actually engage a community and incentivize them with tokens. This case really shows how are capable of generating an asset that otherwise using a Web2 business model is very difficult to obtain, even if you are a big company.
Yeah, no, it sounds a lot like the Hivemapper versus Google thing. Cool.
This is a good example of the trend line of where it's going. This, I think, is still minuscule to what the opportunity is here in front of Over. So Over is one we're watching very closely. I also want to go to another clip here, and this clip is Affyn. Now, we've talked about Affyn here on this channel. There's a lot of things happening within Affyn. Their CEO talks a little bit more about how this might work within things like Nexus World. Take a look. The quality of the graphics, which are pretty amazing. When we saw this for the first time, is this continuing to improve within the game? Can you kind of give us an update?
So it will also be on mobile, right? And it's kind of like you hold it and then you move around with it. It will move together with you. So the whole experience we are trying to achieve, it synchronizes with your real world activity and your real world movement. Right. Turning left, it will automatically turn left. When you move right, it will move right. If let's say you go to a restaurant to make a purchase of a cup of Starbucks coffee, and in the real world, you are taking that Starbucks coffee. In the digital world, in Nexus world, it will appear the same cup of Starbucks coffee for your character. Right. And so when your character drinks it, it boosts their stats, like level up and evolve, that kind of thing.
All right, so you can kind of, when we had the interview there with the CEO at Affyn, I'm still very bullish on this project and what they are trying to do, but mapping is going to be a key component for them, and they're going to need a partner. Could this be something like what Over could do for them in terms of being able to inject a lot of more real-world maps? And remember, if you look back at what the Niantic team was talking about, then of course that is Peridot, and Peridot being a huge success, now already starting to partner with Amazon, and this is going to be in-game shopping sorts of integrations that we'll see so much faster, I think, in terms of what we saw in the e-commerce pickup in the early era of the internet. I think now what we'll see this, because this is going to come in a lot of different ways, especially as the devices get slimmer and slimmer. We've done a couple of videos on this. Go back and check those out. When you talk about AR, VR, the opportunity here in what we'll see in mixed reality is going to be pretty huge. So huge market here. And of course, blockchain, I think, is going to be in the leading pole position for this. Now, this was the Star Atlas CEO talking about geolocation in general within his app and why it's important. Take a look.
And then, of course, coming up later this year, we have the mobile fitness app where you'll once again take this crew member, load that into your mobile phone, go on a walk, run, bicycle ride. And as you do that, you're earning loot, you're leveling up your character, which then is completely interoperable.
You had pets on your roadmap right here in season 3. What do you think is going to be the future of how this would transition for Star Atlas?
We've seen some 65 different companies spin up operations that are selling apparel and merch, computer peripherals, they're selling jewelry, they're selling 3D printed models of our ships. We simply don't have the capacity to build, and we're giving that opportunity to other people. They spun up a meme coin off of it, and now they're building their whole game. I definitely see a future ahead where there is some integration with YME and with the Wilder World team.
This is just another example of how Over could fill that gap. So you think about that, you look at gaming, the opportunity, of course, still is on the devices themselves. We tweeted this out to the Sol team on Saga. Why can't Chapter 2 be a showcase for Solana OS in AR instead of a phone? That would be kind of a cool opportunity there. Because I think a lot of people have questioned whether or not we would still be holding a phone a decade from now. Would we? Is it going to happen in glass? Is it going to happen in some sort of other device that might be wearable that gives us that augmented reality opportunity? I think that is the next generation of where computing is going, and also the next generation of how mapping and interaction with this stuff is going to be huge. All right, another company that might need a partnership like Over is Hivemapper. And remember, they're not necessarily in that spatial computing world. What they've been doing and utilizing has been AI. And I think, from this tweet right here from Ariel, could be leaning into AI again. I don't know for sure, but that's one we're going to be watching. They have a new product getting ready to release, but it's going to enable them to build something they're super excited about. So we'll see. It's coming up in September. But again, more opportunity for spatial mapping as a future. And of course, OVR could be the big one going forward. Now, this was the Hivemapper CEO talking a little bit more about gamification, which I think is a huge opportunity here, especially getting people involved in being able to do this. Much like Niantic has been able to do it for free, now you're going to get paid for this. And I think people are going to wake up to this. Take a look.
We just launched this new capability called bursts. And what that really now allows us to do is target very, very specific locations and say, boom, if you map in this specific intersection, you will earn a little bit more honey. It allows you to fill in the gaps and do it in a very, very scalable way. And wow, do those things work. Number two is freshness, right? So now what we're seeing is customers coming to us and saying, look, I love that you have a map of San Francisco or a map of Miami or New York or London or wherever it may be. But what I really also need in addition to that is these, let's say 700 locations, and I need to see them 2 or 3 or 4 times per week. So Burst, I think today is very, nascent, but this idea that like you're treasure hunting in a city, right? It's kind of fun. That is definitely an area of focus for us, which is like, how do you take bursts, which are inherently very valuable to customers, and gamify them, to your point, where, there's Pokemon Go is an entire business around this, right?
Right.
I'm not sure we'll go that far, but I think there's something there that's really powerful, and we hear it from the community as well.
So as you can see, we've been tracking this for quite a while, and the evolution of where this technology is going, I think is really at a threshold of a breakthrough. And when you think about early stage tech, you look at the growth of mobile, the growth of social, internet, you name it. I think we're at that point right now with XR and the potential for spatial mapping and what this might look like in everyday use cases. So with everything that we've kind of talked about, here's kind of the culmination of, because it's merging those 3 elements together, AI, blockchain, emerging tech into Web3, and what we'll see with, of course, spatial mapping. And this is, of course, Niantic Labs partnering with MetaLlama to generate, their projects or the things within their game, which is, of course, transforming kind of the behaviors, but also the experience. So you can kind of see the future is here. I think a lot of this is really going to start breaking into next generation. Just look at this. This is the MetaQuest 2. Many of you guys probably remember this one. This is out of stock, sold out. And remember that Meta is now launching the MetaQuest 3S, which is going to be a lower cost device. Again, another spatial computing headset that is going to be out there and usable in the public. So you've got devices coming onto the market, I think now much faster. You've got uptake by consumers, and you've got the potential use case for productivity and the opportunities for commerce that are really starting to accelerate all this industry going forward. All right, so you guys remember Christmas, that was the big sales period. This will most likely will happen again. I think we'll see this going into the holiday period, but again, MetaQuest was #1 at that time, top charts, even over the Santa tracker, man, and YouTube and TikTok. Wow. Okay, so there you go. You can kind of see the potential growth. So imagine that 1 year later, huge opportunity for next generation. I want to go to a couple of other things. Of course, this is OVR's website, but I've got a chart here or a slide here that kind of talks a little bit about what could they do better? What could they do that could really kind of take it to the next level? So these are the improvements that we would look at. One is remove all barriers to onboarding. This has been a problem out there in Web3 because I feel like there just has not been a complete understanding of how to onboard and get into mass adoption. So invite codes, KYC, retail restaurant onboarding for in-store visits, I think that has to be simplified. This is going to be huge, I think, going forward, especially for location-based marketing. They need a bridge to Solana or other chains. They also need to partner with indie AR game companies. And then getting creator tools and jobs, whether it's a partnership with Futureverse, remember Root Network, we had McDonald on not too long ago talking about this. Big opportunity here, I think, for OVR to really kind of step their game up and take an opportunity and seize the moment right now, because this is the time I think we're going to see a lot of this. Taking a look at OVR, I mean, this, guys, just be aware, this is a super small market cap. You can kind of see it right there. But the potential here for what this technology is doing in correlation with what this market opportunity can be, this is one we're keeping a very, very close eye on. So If you guys are not tuned in to our channel right now, maybe you're not subscribed, I would just ask it that you do that. About 45% of you that view our videos are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure and subscribe right now. It's a great way to get us in your feed. And also when we do live streams, you'll get notifications. So hit that little bell right there. That'll help you out. And if you're not following me on X, make sure and do that. It's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.